This is the social part of it. Hey, Brad.
Hi, Nan. Hi, everybody. How are we?
Since we can't stand around and have the beers and have a chat before the event, right?
Exactly. I've been waiting for the delivery tour.
Hey, Brad.
G'day, Kevin. How are you, man?
Cash. Good. Is
I can say
Patricia there?
Hey, Roger. Sandy.
Yeah, hi, Brad. Good to see everybody strong and healthy. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Video.
Sponsors, welcome to the first in a new series of webinars for the Philippine Mining Club. My name is Kevin Lewis, and we hope that you all have a very enjoyable and informative time with us today. Just before we get going, I'd like to say a few words and mention the people that make this event possible, and they're our valued marketing partners. So I'll start with our supporting partners, all eight sakes: Drill Corp, Autotech, Intertech, Kazar Compression, Linex, Imdex, Hexagon Mining, Major Drilling, and Ollie Consulting. Our foundation partners, Weir Minerals. Weir Minerals delivers end-to-end solutions for all mining, transportation, milling, processing, and waste management activities. David Brown, Centre Solar. David Brown Gear Systems, Philippines Incorporated, suppliers of industrial gear products and aftermarket maintenance services to the Philippine mining industry. Site Work Ready. Site Work Ready offers international recruitment and workforce solutions to companies in the mining and processing, oil and gas, and construction industries. Moving on to our principal partners, iSky Geophysical Consultants. Advice and guidance for geophysical exploration programs being carried out in the mining, metals sector, as well as the coal sector. iSky Geophysical Consultants also provides a wide range of services to the environmental, groundwater, and engineering industries. QED, Quest Exploration Drilling, Asia's leading exploration drilling company, modern equipment with well-trained staff, has elevated QED to become the benchmark for international standard drilling operations in terrain that is generally typified by logistical constraints, geological complexities, and topographical extremes. GHD. GHD has been a permanent presence in the Philippines since 1998, with over 600 professional staff spread across 3 cities in the Philippines, and their main office is in Makati, with the other 2 branches in Cebu City and Quezon City, focused on creating lasting community benefit. GHD leverages on its connected global network with over 10,000 employees to provide engineering, environmental, management services, and key players in the energy and resources sector. And of course, our industry partners, TVI Resources, Agata Project, and Oceana Gold. The Philippine Mining Club is also affiliated with the EMCEE, the Melbourne Mining Club, ANSCHAM, the Australian and New Zealand Chamber of Commerce, PMEA, the Philippine Mine and Exploration Association, COMP, the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines, EMCEE, the Philippine Mine Safety and Environment Association, and YAMA Philippines. And of course, we'd like to mention our media partners, the Philippine Resources and Construction Journal, the most widely read industry journal in the Philippines. But ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to say a few words about our MC today, Attorney Leo Dominguez. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo, for people who have been in the mining industry, our MC needs no introduction. Suffice to say that Leo is a recognised figure and a friend of the Philippine mining industry and is a man of many talents and responsibilities. A lawyer by training, Leo was previously a partner with Crisombe & Torres, a member firm of Baker McKenzie International, where he headed its energy and mining and infrastructure practices group. He retired from the law firm in 2010 and soon after set up his own consulting firm called Ollie Consulting Group, of which he is president and principal. Ollie Consulting Group provides high-level advice on strategic finance and business development in the industries of agriculture, mining, infrastructure, renewable energy, food, beverage and packaging, hospitality and tourism, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get you all to put your hands together and we'll introduce Mr. Leo Dominguez. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody, to this very first virtual Philippine Mining Luncheon. I assume that you have been served your luncheon already. We'll just make sure that we start this after being well fed. This will be our very first attempt to do this type of a meeting in the next normal, as they say. We're staying away from the word new normal. Today we have quite a number of you who are VIPs, but I think I'll dispense with the reading out of the names of the VIPs, and let me all welcome you because you are all VIPs as far as I'm concerned. We have a mining event that's coming up. It's called Mining Investment Asia, which will be on the 8th to the 10th of September in Singapore. You can find more information about this event in mininginvestmentasia.com. Alternatively, just check our website, philippineminingclub.com, for this information. At this point, allow me to introduce our first speaker. He is a graduate of BS Geology from UP Diliman. He was trained under the MGB UNDP for 4 years. He worked in Indonesia for 10 years. He worked for Oxiana Limited, which eventually was called Royalco Philippines. I'm sorry, Oxiana Limited, and then eventually Royalco Philippines, where he was employed until 2015. Currently, he does consulting work for a number of companies, both in exploration management, tenement management, and government liaison. He is also a competent person for geology, a recognized person under our Philippine Mining, PMRC, Mining Reporting Code. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Joey Ayson, President of Philippine Mine Exploration Association. Joey?
Okay, thank you, Leo. So this will be the new normal for a while, huh? Anyway, just good afternoon, everybody. I don't know how many we are, but before I proceed, I'll just give a brief background on PMA. Next slide, please. Well, PMA started really as a subcommittee of the Joint Foreign Chambers of Commerce in the Philippines. We called it IMEC before, International Mining and Exploration Committee, and was set up to monitor and represent the foreign companies investing directly or indirectly in the Philippines in the early 1990s. Then we had it registered in 1998 as a PMEA, but it was Philippine Mineral Exploration Association because most of us, or almost all of us, were explorers. And we had local companies and local investors coming in. And then in 2011, when a few of our members graduated from exploration to mining, we changed it to Philippine Mining and Exploration Association. So PMA is managed by a board of 7 trustees, and we do not receive any compensation, and we have an administrator who manages the day-to-day activities of the association. So we have 13 regular members now. We have 3 classification of members: regular, associate, and individual. And we also have the honorary, which are the founding members. Regular members are these mining companies. Associates are the service contractors and consultants, and the individuals are those who apply individually. Well, we meet every first Monday of the month at Elks Club, but that might change because of this pandemic, and we had just started joint meetings with the Philippine Mining Club. Next slide. So I'd just like to report on the statistics, tenement statistics as of April 30. I think when I reported in February 14, the last time, we had about 275 active MPSAs and 15 EPs. So now it's 279 and 818, as you can see in your slide. So they must have renewed or some MPSAs and approved new EPs at the time. And you can see that under FDA, there's one expired with applications for renewal. So that should be good. And hopefully something happens positively in the short term. Okay, next slide. DNR energy staff movement. So now if you look at the DNR structure, they have 7 undersecretaries and 12 assistant secretaries. In February, there were 8 undersecretaries and only 7 assistant secretaries. So they have put in new people, and we now have an assistant secretary for finance, information, and mining concerns. This is headed by a mining engineer, a lady mining engineer, Ms. Kagiwa, who used to be regional director for MGB 8 in Tacloban. So with COVID, the MGB has started working on a work from home scheme and also a skeletal force as of now. As I understand, they work 14 days or 2 weeks in the office, and they get 14 days home quarantine after that. And they still get people to process papers. In fact, we had some EP renewals approved recently. On the second MICC audit, the results were supposed to come out end of May, about now, but with COVID, this has been further delayed. As I understand that there are about 4 teams doing the audit for the 17 mining companies, and I talked to a couple of guys, and they said that the mining experts, they're divided to 4 teams. They will just be submitting the reports to their team leaders end of May or early June. So team leaders will compile, collate the reports before submitting to the MICC. So that might take another month or so. I'm not sure. Next slide. So when the pandemic came, and the immediate response of the MGB was to issue notices to that report area submissions have been deferred. Initially, up to May 15, and then there was a second notice up to June 30, 2020. This was really due to extending the quarantine being imposed in Manila and in Luzon at that time. So most of the submissions are now by digital, so and then you can get a confirmation receipt from the MGB. Next slide. So in response to that, in March 27, they issued a memorandum allowing mining companies to realign their unused social development and management program funds, and also for exploration, the CDP, Community Development Program funds. No? And this was followed up with a second order guideline on how these funds should be utilized. And, I think they wanted not the whole funds immediately expended, but something like 12 to 17% of these unused funds every week. I will give a summary on the total of these funds expended shortly. Next slide. So in preparation for resumption of activities, the MGB has issued Memorandum Order 2020-04, which prescribes the guidelines or protocols for the resumption of mining and mineral processing operations during the general community quarantine or new normal. So most of us are now under general community quarantine. And just about 4 or 5 pages on your slide, I just listed the salient features like profiling of employees so that you can determine who are going to work or who can work from home. They actually allow up to 100% full capacity of operation capacity from 50% to 100%. And well, the usual medical equipment on site, good housekeeping, and even protocols for shipment of ore. So standard 14-day quarantine for vessels. I think they can use drone to monitor the loading, unloading, and we are also supposed to intensify our IEC campaigns to the host communities. And this memorandum order covers all permittees, whether you're in the exploration stage, development, or until mine rehabilitation or decommissioning. Next slide. So as I said earlier, I'll be giving an update on the summary of SDMP funds reallocated. So MGB usually prepare a report every week, and so far they have requested for 342.7 million to be realigned, and as of that amount, 297 million has already been expended. These funds have been used to help the host communities or the frontliners by providing PPE, ration packs, food packs, sanitation, disinfectants. So it's one way of the industry's way of helping your host community during these times. So next slide. So post-COVID, where do we go from here? Well, the DNR has identified mining to be one of the industries. I think the other one is forestry, to help in the economic recovery by providing employment and generating revenues and taxes. It will also support the Balik Provincia initiative of the government. That means people in Manila who might want to go back to their provinces, so it can provide employment. And one of the proposals by the finance was if mining companies could relocate their headquarters to the host communities so that there will be an increased share in the national wealth in the taxes. This is okay, but then we believe that there might be some logistical problems or concerns if imagine if you have 4 or 5 different projects, and which project would you choose to relocate your headquarters? So we believe that the best alternative to this or solution would be allowing the mining companies to pay their taxes directly to the LGUs. Many years ago, there was a bill filed by Congressman Dominguez, and I think this was not allowed due to policy problem, or I don't know. It has not been allowed, but we believe that that could be the best alternative in increasing the share of the LGUs on the mining taxes. So, so what does the MGB DNR have to do to help spur the mining companies to invest post-COVID, considering that we are also in competition with other countries? EO 79 is the big stumbling block. So, Section 1, areas close to mining, so that has to be revised. No new MPSA Section 4 until they rationalize the fiscal regime. That has to be lifted. And even Section 12, which they said that there should be a consistency of local laws with the national law. So this should also be implemented. That's foremost on my mind. Open pit ban, of course. that should be lifted. That's only a DNR issuance, so they could do that, make a policy statement on that. MICC second audit results, so that should be released very soon. As you're aware, these are 17 operating mines that have been audited, so we don't want that hanging on the air. What's happening to this? So I'm sure these mines are all compliant, but it would be good that the audit results should come out officially. And renewal of the Oceana Gold FTA, that should spur investor confidence because it's an FTA, and I think that the issues concerned is locally, and it has really complied with all the requirements. And for exploration companies, one of the biggest stumbling block is getting indigenous people's consent, so that should be relaxed. Mining company updates. Well, no, Oceana Gold, as I understand, there have been meetings in Malacanang and how to progress the renewal. As I understand, the MGB has been requested to submit a few documents relating to this, and I have been informed that they have submitted this last week already. So let us see what happens. It looks like there might be some movement, positive movement in that. What else? Sagittarius Mine. So I think they have already approved the MPF and an FTA extension until 2032. And if the open pit ban is lifted, then that they should be well underway. Other matters. I usually reserve this for announcements or schedules, but I think I just had a text from the MGB director 10 minutes ago, and I think the gist of it is that the MGB is really pushing for the revival or the industry to be part of this economic recovery, and in that sense, they have made a list of priority projects, priority 1, 2, 3. First priority are those that can start operating within the next 6 months or within this year. And as I understand, they have listed 52 of these projects. And second priority would be those that can operate in 2021, third priority in 2022. Of course, these projects are in the processing stage, and if the roadblock is something which the DNR has control, like a special tree cutting permit or special mines permit or ECC, then they're looking into that. And in a meeting this morning or yesterday, they are now drafting an MICC resolution to be signed by Secretary Simato and Dominguez, recommending the lifting of the open pit ban and also the lifting of the moratorium on new MPSA approvals. So hopefully these two secretaries can present it to the president for approval, and this would really be a good boost to the industry. I think that's all. So thank you for listening, and I hope that's some good news in this pandemic.
Thank you very much, Joey. Before I move on, I'd like to talk about another mining event that's coming around. It will be a free webinar. This free webinar will be from one of our supporters, Index, on improving the core logging process through simple, powerful workflows. This will take place, the webinar will take place on June the 10th. So please refer to the Philippine Mining Club website for more details. Before I proceed to introduce our speaker, I'd like to highlight the following. Number one, the Philippine Mining Club is closely associated with the globally recognized Melbourne Mining Club, thanks to Gavin Collery, foundation member of the Melbourne Mining Club and former communications officer at Indophil. Now, for your questions that you wish to address to our speaker, I request that you please type those questions in the Q&A box, or if there is no Q&A box, the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I will then read them out to our speaker after his presentation during the Q&A. So I repeat, if you have questions for our speaker, please type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, or if there is no Q&A box, type it in the chat box. I will then read them out to our speaker after his presentation during the Q&A portion of this program. Now, please allow me to say a few words about our speaker today. He is a futurist, an engineer, a mathematician, a consultant, and a serial entrepreneur. He is the founder of Mind Connector and Elite Futurists. Prior to starting his businesses, he worked with McKinsey and Company in their Melbourne office, Australia. He has a doctorate in mind planning and optimization from the University of Melbourne. During his PhD studies and postdoctoral work at the university, he developed algorithms for generating designs that maximize the net present value of a mining operation. That work provides the basis for software which assists mine planners to design more profitable mines. He was also a visiting scholar at the Colorado School of Mines, USA. He has been working on various mining projects, which include due diligence, artificial intelligence, operations, analytics, optimization, and digital in different commodities around the globe. He is a keynote speaker, and he provides mining leaders with strategic direction and visionary leadership. His vision is to engage, partner, and collaborate with mining leaders and decision makers to transform a mining business into a best-in-class, advanced digital and sustainable enabled competency company. He constantly challenges current business models in mining companies to open possibilities for innovation and technology and to build a better future for the mining sector. Ladies and gentlemen, to speak on the topic, futuristic mining ecosystems, I am pleased to welcome Dr. Kash Sirinanda. Kash?
Yeah, thanks, Leo. That's a good introduction. And you correctly pronounced my surname, which is good. So, Paul, can you share the screen, please? So good afternoon all, and I would like to thank Philippine Mining Club to give me opportunity to talk something I'm really passionate about. So this talk, I have two parts. First part, I'll focus on the vision, the future of the mining sector, and I'll bring some of the elements you need to know in the futuristic mining ecosystem. That's the first part. Second part, I would like to talk about an elegant tool we developed to reduce conflicts between mining companies and mining communities. So we call it smart mining, how we can build smart mining communities and involve with them to minimize, again, the conflicts between mining companies and the communities. So that's going to be my second part of the talk today. Next slide, please. So what's the business philosophy so far we have seen? In the past, we treated a mining company as earth-moving company, so which means mostly driven by economic aspects in mining and only fewer consideration of social and environmental aspects in mining. In present, we treated money-moving company where you can see trucks taking money up and down along the ramps. and only few mining companies treat UN Sustainable Development Goals something they can use in the mining space, but I have seen it's been advancing, which is positive. The future is a sustainable mining company, so not only considering economic aspects of mining, but also well-balanced social, economic, and environmental aspects in mining. So this is the way we need to think, how would we create the value in the mining business? So next slide, please. So this one I want, sorry, go ahead. So this one I want to talk about, so what's the future, what's the road to mining in 2050? This is generally considering not only like top tier mining companies, but considering whole mining companies, considering juniors and also top tier mining companies. So this is not focusing on BHP, Rio, or Barrick, or Tech, but generally what's the vision, what should be doing in the future. Sorry, Job, can you please, yeah.
The road to mining in 2050. Currently, the majority of mining operations are controlled by people and software. Mining is a complex process, so to manually schedule a mine plan is a very difficult task. We mainly depend on mine planning software to optimize a mine plan to satisfy our short, mid, and long-term business goals based on the lifetime of the mine. Most of the digital solutions available in the market address pain points in one silo of the mine and deliver point digital solutions. Point digital solutions help to overcome either load and haul or mine, or processing or logistics, or exploration-related challenges. Only a few integrated digital solutions are currently available, but the solutions are suboptimal. Decision-making is mainly done by humans and/or software. 2030, semi-self-governing. Top-tier mining companies are driving concepts of autonomy in their mines by using autonomous fleets. These activities help to reduce human involvement in mining operations. A few mining companies are working towards enabling truck-to-truck communication in their mines. Therefore, we predict we will soon see semi-self-governing mines, where most of the decisions are made by autonomous things, such as rucks, drills, drones, and machines with the help of humans and software. Third-party mining solutions providers will support this by developing integrated digital solutions. 2040, self-governing. After the boom in autonomous ecosystems and AI matures, we will see most mines in self-governing states. All decisions will be made by autonomous machines with less human interaction. Most solutions will become plug-and-play, which means we will see generic digital solutions that are not customized to a particular mine type, mining company, or commodity. 2050, virtual mines. AI experts believe that we will achieve singularity by 2050, or sooner than that, where machines surpass human intelligence. This will impact the mining industry. In virtual mines, the decisions are made by AI. Humans only own the mines. Most human risk activities will be carried out by robots. By that time, humans will not be involved in daily mining activities. All operations will be automated. There will be fewer miners actually working at mine sites. The majority of operations will be controlled from the mining company's headquarters. What the road to mining will be beyond 2050, only time will tell.
Thanks, Paul. Next slide. So this is more like the summary, what I presented before. So, so how the decision-making process throughout different mines. So in people governing mines, most of the decision made by people and software. And when it comes to virtual mines, it is mainly driven by AI. And digital solutions, initially we see a lot of point digital solutions, then point integrated, and in self-governing mines, we would see plug and play, which means it doesn't depend on which commodity. It could be coal, it could be iron ore, it could be gold, copper, and also it doesn't matter which company you are talking. It could be top tier or junior mining company. So that's kind of the layout the future to the future into 2050. And so it's really hard to believe some people. So I'll have another graph in here. So how I would think that would happen. So nowadays we have basic programming and at AI progress. So we can see we see a lot of transformation from being a human, then a cyborg, then into a robot, right? So this kind of thinking and singularity definitely impact in mining as well. And most of the people see now we have physical body, then it transformed to cybernetics, then after that synthetic brain, and finally we can upload our mind to a USB. I know that's the future we are talking, but definitely these kind of ideas and concepts impact in mining. So that's why I speculate this kind of behavior for the future of the mining sector. Next slide, please. So what are the pillars that would drive this kind of concept? So so we have seen and we have identified 6 pillars, starting from seamless connectivity. So how would you connect sensors and other components in the mining space? It could be open pit or underground mine. So how we connect that. Then the second pillar is autonomous things. So how we can use autonomous trucks, drills, and drones and robotics, how we work together in that space. The third one is AI, of course, machine learning, cybersecurity, blockchain, and edge and quantum computing will drive that pillar. The next one around immersive experience. You probably have seen a lot of things happening around digital twin, virtual reality, augmented reality, and gamification in mining. And not only that, so we need to digitize our workforce, right? So we need to think how we can digitally empower miners by providing wearables or virtual reality glasses and gamification concepts. That's the 5th pillar. The last one is the integrated ecosystem, where for me the future is integrate mining between mining communities and to act as a very transparent manner to make sure we don't have a lot of conflicts among them. So what are the enablers? In order to achieve this, we have identified a lot of technologies like blockchain, IoT, gamification. I know a lot of people, these are the technical jargons, but due to the time limitation, I don't go into detail. But if anyone interested, I'm happy to talk case by case for each area. So jump next slide, please. So this one is, I want to talk about what are the 32 elements of a futuristic mining ecosystem. So these are the things we think that will drive the future for the mining sector.
The elements of a futuristic mining ecosystem: seamless connectivity, autonomous things, artificial intelligence, immersive experience, digitized workforce, integrated ecosystems, GPS satellite, 5G, 4G, Wi-Fi, sensors, RFIDs, IoT, IIoT, autonomous drones, robotics, autonomous trucks, drones, electric vehicles, all sorted machines, ventilation, demand, AI-driven development, augmented analytics, machine learning, chatbots, quantum computing, edge computing, 4D printing, 3D images, selective mining, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, digital twin, wearables, gamification, blockchain, remote operation center, event-driven architecture, cybersecurity, continuous adaptive risk and trust, renewables, dams, communities.
Next slide, please. So this slide is, I try to map these 32 elements from extraction to port, so where it fits in a holistic way. So, so anyone can, set these kind of pillars, but for me, the most crucial part is you need to have framework to deliver these kind of things. So in that framework, we have identified 6 areas, starting from visionary leadership, business models, emerging technologies, optimized miners, green mining, and purposeful discussions. So these each 6 we call mine DNA. So we map another 36 items. For each principle, we have 6 areas. So how we can enable the future of the mining sector. So we call that model Futuristic Mining Operating Model, where we have 36 principles, help them to build this kind of future for the mining sector. Jump next slide, please. So this one, we are introducing new idea around digital mining maturity curve. So the most of the mining companies, of course, they have BI tools and to do visualization. What's the next day production? What's happening today? What's happening, next 6 months? What happening next 5 years? That's kind of things. So you can have that sort of tools. The next step is around simulation. So in the simulation, what we're trying to do is use some scenario analysis to generate different operational philosophies. Based on that, we think, oh, this is good for our day-to-day operation, and they can run simulation models to do that. Next step is optimization. After you're having simulation models, we can use advanced algorithms like machine learning to optimize mining operations. So what are these analytical tools we can use? Some of them are like plant analytics, predictive maintenance, mine analytics, blast analytics, and short interval optimizer. So that will decide what's happening each shift given all the inputs and outputs. And the dilution, some of the commodities, the dilution is a big problem, but there are tools available to optimize the dilution. And of course, another area is energy optimization. So there are a lot of aspects, especially in mining, to optimize the business. The final one is augmentation. So after having these kind of steps like visualization, simulation, optimization, then you need to do augmentation. The augmentation piece is use AI-driven development to connect people, process, and systems. So that's the idea how we can orchestrate or work together in one platform. So that's what augmentation would do. So most of the mining companies in this phase optimization, and I have seen especially top tier mining companies, they already started to think augmentation, very simple one, like can we augment how the shovel move? So these kind of things I have seen already. Some of the especially top tier mining companies started to think about that. Next slide, please. So there's another thing is, there are a lot of transformation happening in mining, right? What are the different transformations? So the first one is traditional transformation. Most of the consulting companies, they are working on that space. So most of the solution, unfortunately, is top down. But for me, for mining, top down, model doesn't work. It should be bottom up approach as well. Because, miners, they know actually what's happening in the mine, but some of the leadership, it's they don't have clear understanding. So I have seen a lot of mismatch in their KPIs to make sure it's not happening. So we need to find the sweet spot between top down and bottom up leadership. The next one is AI transformation. So a lot of my clients said, hey, Kash, I need to do something around AI, but I keep challenging, hey, we need to walk before we can run, which means you need to have infrastructure ready to do a lot of AI projects. Otherwise, they are not going to be successful. It's just like, proof of concept, which is going nowhere. The next one around digital transformation, I see a lot of problems which I discuss in my next slide. So how to successfully run a digital transformation in a mining organization. But our approach is we call sustainability transformation, where we consider not only digital aspect, but also UN Sustainable Development Goals and make one operating model, because some of the people, they don't see we can link digital levers and sustainability levers, but of course we can link them and make one philosophy. Next slide, please. So these are the pain points, right? So you need to ask the question in order to improve, in order to successfully run a digital transformation, what are the things you should be doing, right? So this is one of the big problems with the sector. So we have identified 5 areas. So there should be right leadership and capability enabling, because digital transformation is not a quick win, and we need to have right people to understand it pays at the end. The beginning is just, it's very cloudy, but as you do, then you see the value. And you need to find right positive-minded people throughout your organization to drive these initiatives. And the other problem around change management, most of the mining companies I have seen, they wait to do the change management last minute. That's the reason most of the projects it's not going anywhere. So I always telling, hey guys, you need to start the change management from the beginning. And as you do, you need to upskill the miners along your journey. The other problem is, in terms of to get the budget in to run digital mining projects. So most of the thing, if you treat digital strategy and corporate strategy like 2 different buckets, it doesn't work. So we need to make sure they align each other. And you need to have your solution to overcome your pain points, not your competitor, right? I really want to emphasize that. So try to think, try to build solution to overcome your pain points, not your competitor. And the next one around, you need to think about pragmatic digital solutions, not futuristic digital solution, because I have seen a lot of startups, especially in this space, working like augmented reality and mixed reality kind of concepts. But think about the safety, right? So you are in a mining environment, right? If you put a goggle, think about, what happened, So that's why I always tell my, my friends doing startups in that space, think about the mining environment. The next one around, that's a typical problem around software dilemmas. Let's say you are working in a mine planning, right? So now you purchase really good tool. So after 5 years, you find another tool, then you'll purchase that. So along your journey, you collect a lot of softwares. And when you go back, then you have a lot of legacy systems, which you have no clue. So my message is, you need to have vision. How would you purchase your software? Next slide, please. So the other part is, there's a big digital hype and AI hype. So how we can have right digital talent in your company. So we have seen like 6 areas to improve that. So starting from digital, you need to have digital specialists and digital experts to drive your digital initiatives. And probably if you can have chief digital officer, that would be really great. Who knows, how to drive digital projects or digital initiatives. And the next one around analytics, of course, we need to have data scientists, data engineers, and big data architects to have, to do a lot of modeling and machine learning and advanced analytics. And not only that, next step is software development, right? So you need to have DevOps, agile coach, and product owners. I know that's one mining company. I think in the future, what they're trying to do is change their business model. Let's say they build good software for their own company, they can sell to other competitors, right? So I have seen such a things happening, especially in top tier mining companies. They build own software, they test in their platform, and they can sell to their competitor. And the next one is, if you do software, then you need to have designers to do the UI UX part. And mining is a very complex process. So not only analytical people, but we need people like mathematician and optimization experts to do this modeling. So this is, I call, army of, employees for mining space to drive the digital concepts. Next slide, please. So now I talk about my second part of my talk, where I talk about how we can use UN Sustainable Development Goals in mining, right? So this is not a new concept. It is kind of now most of the mining companies, initially they had CSR reports. Now they transform CSR reports using UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is really good. So what I did was I mapped these 17 goals into 3 areas: economic, social, and environment. And economic, we talk about circular economy, economic growth, and how you pay taxes and royalties. So we can map each item, 17 SDGs, to this area. The next one around social. So what are the legal rights you should have, how we can work with the communities, and what are the health and safety goals. The final bit around the environment. So how would you optimize your energy? How would you introduce renewable energy, right? So there are a lot of big hype, especially I see a lot of very successful renewable energy projects in mining in Chile. So yeah, if you want later, I can talk this area, how we can use renewable energy in mining. And not only that, so we need to talk about how you can manage your waste and water, because that's a really big problem when it's come to water in Chile and Peru. It's a big problem. And finally, mine closer. So this is the way I would see, in the future, how we can use 17 SDGs in the mining space. Next slide, please. So the dams collapsing is not only the problem in mining. There are a lot of problems, right? And there are a lot of conflicts. I don't know whether you guys had chance to visit IMARC this year, and there are a lot of protests in the, they are saying that, mining is not sustainable. And, I always telling, of course, mining is not sustainable, but we can minimize the impact, right? So I always telling, because we take something out from the ground, right? So it's never be sustainable, but you can minimize the impact if you follow the principles, like if you drive sustainable development goals in mining. So I always challenging myself, and I try to educate people asking this question, like how to reposition a mining company to achieve positive outcomes for communities, right? In that case, we can reduce the conflicts. That's what we believe. How we can, I always think how we can use technology, and there are a lot of technology. So how we can use to minimize the conflicts between mining companies and the communities. Next slide, please. So yeah, so our aim is to improve the impression between mining business and successfully connect them to mining communities. So the problems are, of course, they have bad reputation, and mining communities and companies are not well connected. And I have seen a lot of conflicts between mining companies and communities, and also it's increasing. So we have really simple solution. So we call it community dashboard. So we share vital information in a dashboard. So our solution is very pragmatic, and it's very transparent, and help them to drive the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And finally, reposition the mining company for a sustainable future. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do in our small project group. Next slide, please. So what are the things, by having, being more transparent, so how that would help to a mining company, right? That's a question you should ask even though, you know, we can do these kind of dashboards or other projects. So what's our, you know, end goal, right? So the first one is to bridge the gap between mining companies and communities, try to be very transparent and show exactly what's happening in a mining company. And that will help them to rebrand, you know, so the way the people think what's happening in mining. So it's give a positive outcome for a mining company. And the next one around the impact. So it's not only just, you know, CSR, just not only a report, but actually we can involve communities to drive these concepts. The final one is that sustainability. So we can redesign mining operations to drive the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that will definitely impact, you know, better future for mining. Next slide, please. So how we can do that, right? So we are thinking to show a dashboard. It could be either, you know, where people gather the most. It could be a church. It could be a, you know, the entrance to a mining company, or it could be entrance to a mine. So we're trying to do is build a dashboard. So the first one we called siloed mining village, where this village, they have only one mine. At that mine, we use a dashboard to show the vital information. In my next slide, I'll show what other information we are thinking to show. And the next one is I call global mining village, where we connect few mining village and share their knowledge and share their information and what's actually happening and how a mining company contributes for the community. So these are the two areas, given that if you are a big mining company, where you have a lot of mines. So how, in that case, how we can share the information. Next slide, please. So this is a dashboard we started to build one of the client in Peru. So what we're trying to show is, you know, the dam information. What is the dam level? Whether it's safe or it's not safe, and what's the dam pressure? Is the high, medium, low? Then, you know, people aware what's actually happening in terms of the dam. And the next one around waste management. So how they collect waste, store and recycle. So given time, we can show this is happening in a mining company. Next one around water quality. So what's the current pH value and what's the average pH value to understand the quality of water. And the next one around again water consumption, how the mine, you know, do the weekly consumption. Then if we have any renewable energy projects, then we will show also the renewable power generation, the wind, solar and hybrid. This is your power generation. The middle portion is around community contributions. So how many projects completed, ongoing and planned. And each contribution, like how much they spend in terms of roads, hospitals, agriculture, schools, so on and so forth. Then the community knows how they spend the money. And the next one around air quality. So what's the level of carbon dioxide, methane, and whether it's safe or not safe. And also noise and vibration. And this is common health and safety, like when most of the mining companies, when you enter, you can see the injuries and accident, the numbers. And especially in Australia, so a lot of mines, you have indigenous communities. In that case, you need to see what's the employment rates. The final one around mine production. So you can see what's the production around. This is especially example we did for copper and molybdenum. Next slide, please. So this one is what I'm trying to do is map this into SDGs. So each points in the dashboard relates to SDGs. I think you can read through this. So it's like one-to-one mapping, sorry, one-to-many mapping. Next slide, please. So what's next for the mining sector, right? So there are a lot of research and development working happening, like most of the mining companies, especially top tier, before they implement their new ideas, they have test trial mines to do that first. and they have a lot of flagship digital projects happening. And the next one around transparency of data. Like in the future, I think a lot of people definitely demand, they want to see damn data, waste data, and community contribution, especially in Brazil. I think this already started, mining communities demanding to see this information. The other thing around open innovation, where I see a lot of mining companies, they work with startups, OEMs, tech companies to build a lot of new ideas. And as I said before, even try to go for software business. Next one around startups teams. I work with big, top tier mining companies to build think tank type groups. And I help them to build what the future would look like and what sort of initiatives we need to have by considering the future of the mining sector, and also how to build agile teams and how to run projects smoothly. And another one around consortiums. A lot of top tier mining companies, they're working towards to build the autonomy ecosystem, which means how to enable truck-to-truck communication, so on and so forth. And the final one around integrated digital platforms. So most of the solution, as I said, they try to focus on one area, but in the future, I think it's going to be end-to-end. Next slide, please. So the key message is, in the future, it's not the big fish, it's the fast fish, around the game. And, think about, what's happened in a minute. This is 2019 data. Like there are like 0.2 million Skype calls happening and 0.5 million tweets happening in a 1 minute, right? So these type of the data we work in a minute. So this definitely impact in mining as well. We generate a lot of data, but we need to think how we can use them to make, proactive measurements, so, and how to predict things very productive way. Next slide, please. So for me, we call new initiative called Mining Rebooted, which means, we need to think about not only innovation, but we need to think about miners, innovation, and sustainability. Again, the sustainability is not only economic impacts, but also well-balanced environmental, social, and economic. So that's why I'm telling, you need to foster people and sustainability-driven and innovation-led culture. That's the future for mining. Definitely, that's the area you need to be, you need to work on towards not only miners, but you need to have well-balanced, considering all these 3 points. Next slide, please. So yeah, my final message is you need to start now, because it takes some time to build these things, right? So you need to, I would say it's like more like startup thinking. You need to fail fast, and you need to learn things very quickly. Next slide, please. So with this, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Kash. I've asked you to please, audience, post your questions in the Q&A box. I have a question for you, Dr. Kash. Assuming on a scale of 1 to 10, the futuristic picture of the mining industry, and 10 is the maximum that you have described, how far on a scale of 1 to 10 have the most modern mining companies in Australia achieved?
I wouldn't say you can see only modern companies in Australia, but I challenge that. There's one in Canada as well. So yeah, so there's a few Canadian companies also driving that. Yeah, that's a general thing, because Australia, you have top tier mining companies, right? But to answer your question, I would say 1 to 10, Yeah, it depends, right? So it depends which commodity you talk and which tier you are talking, right? So if you take top tier, I would say it's 6 to 7. Yeah.
They've reached 6 to 7 of the 10 possible descriptions of future mining. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, but I haven't talked about moon mining or asteroid mining. That's deep sea mining. But
Yeah.
I like to talk, but that's not your question. But that's another area. Some of the mining companies try to think that area as well, asteroid mining, and but that's very futuristic, probably another 50 years. But yeah, I would say 6 to 7 to answer your question. But not only, as I said, I need to say not only Australian companies, there are a few Canadian companies as well.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? I don't see anything posted on the Q&A. If you'd like to raise your question live, you can turn off or turn on your mic and turn off the mute sign and address your question live. Anyone with a live question?
Yeah, I do. Leo, it's Kevin Lewis from the Philippines.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
Kash, with the autonomous mining, there are some, I think, Rio and in Australia and BHP are using trucks that are autonomous. And some of the other mines don't do that. They use, of course, real people. And there's a big cost factor. So how do they, the big guys, it's okay. They've got plenty of money for R&D. But what about the little guys? How will it work for the small guys? And we're really just talking as things develop.
Yeah, I'll tell. Even big guys challenging. So I had a chance to work kind of consortium, they call that. So even big guys, sometimes they're challenging. So that's why they involve OEMs and other partners to join the work. That so it's not even if big guys, it's challenging, right? But to answer your question, that consortium, sometimes juniors joining and learn from that and try to build something. But as I said, always in my talk, still you can improve a mining company without being digital, right? There are a lot of kind of communication errors. We can rewire a mining organization. There are still a lot of opportunity. So you no need to go always, autonomous vehicles to show the value. But and also another study I did to understand what's happening in that space in terms of patents, right? So I have seen a lot of big companies do a lot of stuff in that area, but for juniors, it's not quite there yet. Think about like only few mining companies still they have autonomous trucks, right? But yeah, that's why I'm telling probably for junior or mid-tier companies, it would take another 5 to 10 years to come that into space.
Yes, yeah. I guess it's not easy, but it is the future. I think there's some questions on chat.
Yeah, let's.
Any questions from the audience, live, if you will?
There's questions on chat, Leo.
Yeah, I'm just going through. Yeah, so.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
There's one.
Yeah, there's another question I'll ask. That's a really common question, so I can answer that around workforce, right? So yesterday also I had a talk similar in Brazil around this area. So so it will take some time to replace humans in mining. So don't worry about that, right? So even as Kevin mentioned, most of the thing, even with autonomous trucks, it's really challenging. So I'm thinking if you bring kind of robotics, it's really challenging. So I keep saying, don't worry about that. It's hard in this space to replace miners using AI. It's really hard. I think it's probably a long shot. But there are other things I would see. If you talk about analytics and digital, I see most of the mining companies, they try to hire people with analytical background. So there's a big hype in that space. But to answer that question, I don't think, still robots replace miners. It's a long shot.
Kash, I was fascinated by the part of your presentation that talked about the UN SDGs. It seems to me that's low-lying fruit. You don't really need to have, high-tech employees to figure out what bits you're doing in your company that actually align with the UN SDGs. Would you consider that a common practice in Australia, aligning with UN SDGs? I mean, saying it out aloud?
Yes.
Or
yeah, it's already happening, but the missing piece is how to work with the communities. There's I see only one startup already started, but it's more like the approach is very pragmatic, right? So what they're trying to do, collect all the information and they provide that information to the mining community, but I don't see the backwards, right? Take that information and provide some output to the mining communities, but I haven't seen that yet in Australia, but I have seen the companies doing, they collect, they interview communities and provide ideas and suggestions to mining companies. So, sorry.
I guess in CSR version 1.0, people are doing CSR and they're doing all kinds of things to help the community and the planet and so on, but have not yet transformed into identifying the actual UN SDGs. And I think that your example, I think, is or your discussion on that is something that local mining companies should start thinking about. Number one, understanding what these SDGs are. And number two, look at what you're doing and try to identify which of your activities actually comply with any of those SDGs, and say what they are in your websites. I mean, it's a wonderful way to actually align not only with the UN, but with the world that is looking at responsible corporate citizenship. And there's a lot that mining companies actually do, even here in the Philippines, that can very easily be identified as an SDG. So I think, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I haven't touched around climate change, I know it's some people find it challenging. So I've seen really top tier mining companies. They have CSR, sustainability report. There's another thing they have now trying to do climate change policy, right? So that's really interesting. If you can read some of the big mining companies, they try to focus how they can, solve that problem in their scope in the mining business, how they can, to minimize like carbon dioxide emission, how they can use renewable energy. Then there's another big piece. So link what they're trying to do, not only SDGs, but only focusing climate change aspect. That's the first thing. The second thing around circular economy, which I haven't talked today, but there's another area, especially I have seen in Scandinavian companies, they do a lot of circular economy concepts in mining, which means, they chain their smelters to do they call secondary materials. I haven't talked about that. Another thing, Apple, they already started to recycle their materials. So imagine like companies like Apple, if they stop buying commodities from mining companies, right? So that's why there's another opportunity for mining companies to recycle materials and do the resmelting and generate cash flows. So there's another opportunity which I haven't talked around circular economy. So in the future, I think I have seen some mining companies already, they can adapt these kind of concepts. especially in Scandinavia. They already built that smelters, and some mining companies, they have their own recycling plants, which is really, I found is really interesting. So they have their own recycling plants in the mine, which is really, really good.
Again, anyone from the audience with a question, just unmute your mic and fire away.
Leo.
Yes, Roger.
Yeah, Kash, I have a question. Sorry, I just can't unmute my video. Anyway, I'll just do it by audio. Kash, how are computers, or how is the digital future in 2050? How are they going to communicate with the community? I mean, it seems to me that that's one aspect, as Leo mentioned, that is still going to require human presence and human understanding. And I guess unless you predict that computers will in fact get better at that than humans are, I mean, that seems to be one area that's still going to require human interaction.
Yeah, so think about like this, right? So yeah, I'm not challenging anything, but I'm telling, if you remove human factor in the equation or decision, right? So I'm not telling like perfect decisions, but with AI, it will help you to make right decision, right? Considering commodity market, how that would impact how your competitors perform, and things like, things could happen like COVID, we don't know, right? So, I mean, these things can, predict, if something happened in the market, and let's say there's a big thing like, I know, right? To go to China from Brazil, it takes 20 odd days, and from Australia, probably 12 days, these kind of things, right? So how we can use AI to make better decision for removing human factor in the equation. To answer your question, for me personally, I bet for AI to give very accurate predictions. But still, we need to have people to make right decision, right call. That's the first thing. Second thing, around safety, right? So the areas like underground mines, areas people can't reach, then we can use EVs or robotics, right? So why not, right? So we can minimize the danger in that area. So that's why I think that's two things, like around decision making. Second one around safety.
Kash, there's a very interesting question that came up. It says here, since the plan for 2050 is virtual mining, isn't it risky since it is more accessible to hackers, which may raise certain problems?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's no need to go 2050, right? So I'm writing another article around cybersecurity, right? Imagine like if someone hacked your autonomous trucks, right, and try to operate them, right? There are a few cases actually in the past, not trucks, but try to do a ransom and try to operate plants. It's happened, or not even 2050. But you need to make sure you have it's any sector. It's even could banking, it could be manufacturing, right? Imagine someone hack and try to operate their equipment, right? So to answer your question, right, so there are definitely risks on that. So we need to prepare for that. It's for any industry, work with, that's why I'm telling sometimes it's better to go for analog rather than digital in terms of security. But I agree with you. It's something we need to be aware of that, but it doesn't matter either future or now. It's definitely, it's a problem.
Kash, I don't know how much you appreciate the level of the way we do mining in the Philippines. I can't even go, scale of 1 to 10. Where are we in that picture? But let's assume that we're just basically starting to scratch the surface of the future of mining that you have described. What would you say are the recommended baby steps, let's say 3 steps, that companies should consider taking as a on their way towards this futuristic mining picture?
Yeah, it's a common question. It's just, yeah, I was given talk a few months ago in Peru, so I got the same question. So the first thing is for me, more like upskill, people, right? So even though there are a lot of technologies, some may, maybe cheaper, some may really expensive. The first thing is for me to upskill people, right? So without think about, the budget they have, without go for that. First thing is, as you said, baby step is upskill people, right? At least aware. I'll tell another story. There's another big mining company in Brazil, right? Even though they have budget, but thing is, people they are not they are not very keen on the technology, right? So this company, what it did was it started like have little groups talk about machine learning, analytics, this kind of things to give to motivate people. Hey, there's a lot happening. Let's start kind of baby step. So the first thing is upskill people and let them know these things happening in the future with other mining companies, right? So that's the first baby step, upskill people. The second one is around after upskill people, how would you align with the leadership? As I said, that's one of the big problems I have seen, the alignment, right? So there are a lot of creative people, especially miners, we said they know their shit, that's true, they know their business, but sometimes you don't get support from the leadership. So that's why I see a lot of also bad cases, there are a lot of really creative and innovative people, but they don't get enough pull from the leadership. So the second thing is around that things to alignment with the leadership. And the third thing is, as I said in my last thing around, you need to have a fostering culture, not only miners, not only innovation, not only sustainability. The third piece is around the culture. So you need to have people fostering and innovation-led culture. So these are the three things. It's baby step, as I said, but it's a long journey. So I always tell my clients, it's this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So it's as you said, you need to take baby step, or you need to fail fast and learn something new. So that's my message. Those are the three steps.
Thank you, Kash. The very, very good description of what companies should consider. In other words, don't just hire new graduates of geology or mining engineering. You kind of have to look for the millennial in them who think, well, most millennials today are innovative anyway. I mean, they were born with a cell phone in their hand, so that's a computer. But so the likelihood is that the new generation of graduates, whether they're engineers or not, are already inclined in that direction. But I think what you're saying is to nurture that as a culture in your company, to make sure that people are thinking about innovative ways to move forward all the time.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I mean, at times today we're in this new normal. I mean, there's no way anybody in any industry, in any business can move forward unless he's thinking innovatively.
Yeah, it's as an example, right? So a lot of people talk about agile, right? What's happening in agile concept, right? So we need to have, I used to work in other big mining companies to build them agile teams. So how we can change the thinking around, mining, how they do business, day-to-day business. Yeah, it's as you said, it's mainly driven by the culture.
Yeah. Oh, there's a question that somebody has raised. Her name is Scarlett. Since Philippine internet speed is still slow, I guess, will this affect the country's progress towards digital mining? For sure.
Yeah. I'm not sorry. I'm not telling. Also, Australia, this really slow with NBN. I don't know if you know, NBN is one of the things in Australia because of this COVID. A lot of people work from home, and sometimes I have noticed it's not only Philippines, also in Australia these days, it's kind of really dropping down. Sometimes it's stuck, even we can't have good communication like 20, 30 people. But in Philippines, yes, so the first thing is even any mining organization, infrastructure is crucial, right? So in order to enable, like, let's say, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, or like, to communicate your information with the ROC means IROC operating center, then you need to have a Wi-Fi or 5G, not even 5G, let's say 4G or 3G. But, so first thing is you need to build the infrastructure. Without that, even for any digital project, I said, my clients, hey, what about your infrastructure? Can you have enough speed to get the data you want, right? So it's common for any, it's even go to mine site, it's God knows where they have and no connections, but you need to make sure you have right infrastructure in order to enable the services.
Well, to the person who asked that question yesterday, our new NEDA acting chief, Carl Chua, did talk about the future. Well, starting now will be the digitalization of our economy, and that is going to be a very strong message to our suppliers of the technology to please catch up. If everything is going to happen digitally, for example, no need to go to a government office anymore. Everything is going to be done online. Well, if the government is going to say that that's the way we're going to do it, the providers have to make sure. So
I think COVID pushed that, right? So they pushed that COVID, I recently read something, a lot of COVID helps a lot of companies to do digital transformation, which is true actually, right? So, yeah.
Okay. We have about 4 minutes to wrap up, and I have spotted a question here from Stephen Lloyd. Digital is a very broad spectrum. How about tunneling along mineral belts to build train lines? You have a comment for that, Kash?
Yeah, I agree with the digital is a sport, very broad spectrum, which is right. Yeah, so this is like case by case, right? So if it's, we need to analyze to answer that, if that works for them. The tunneling, of course, it's a good option, right? So the current client I work now, they do the same thing. So they have few mines, and one mine, even though they have a processing plant, but they also do use the belt to transfer that thing to a different mine and do the processing, right? So it's hard to answer that question. It is kind of case by case. So it's still valuable. Depends on which type of commodity, which type of client you are talking.
Okay,
but
thank you.
The first part, I'm agreed. So digital is really very broad spectrum, which is true.
Thank you very much, Kash. We're down to our last 3 minutes, so I will bring your presentation and the Q&A to a close. And on behalf of the Philippine Mining Club and all of those that who have joined us today, thank you very, very much, Kash, for sharing your knowledge with us on this very interesting topic, the future of mining.
Yeah, thanks for giving me opportunity as well to talk something I'm really passionate about. I know there are other areas like asteroid mining or space mining or deep sea mining, which I haven't talked. But if the future, if you have time, I'm happy to talk these areas as well. But again, thanks for giving me opportunity. And also if someone, in the audience have, if they have any questions, just reach out to me. So I always answer, just send me an email or message LinkedIn. So I'm happy to answer. If you have a lot of other questions or, burning questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank
and
you.
Let's work together to build the sector. That's
Yes,
my
sir.
final message.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kash. Now for some announcements. Our speaker for the second Philippine Mining Club webinar, which will take place on June 11, is IMDEX, IMDEX, with a presentation by EMCEE and Reflex, two of their global subsidiaries. So just keep an eye open for email from your inbox with more details on this webinar. on June 11. On that note, with 1 minute left, I am happy to bring this session to a close. Thank you very much. Have a drink. It's Friday afternoon. Maybe we should have attached something to future webinars where at 4 o'clock we kind of have a e-drinking session. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good weekend. Thank you.